Maya Johnson walked down the busy street, her hands tucked into the pockets of her coat. The cold breeze brushed against her face as she made her way through the crowd. She had been looking forward to this day for a while now. After weeks of hard work and planning, she finally had some free time to take care of something important. Her destination was a store called Tech Haven, one of the most popular electronics retailers in the city. It wasn't just any store, it was special to her. Tech Haven was more than just a place where people bought gadgets and devices. For Maya, it represented years of dedication, sleepless nights, and countless sacrifices. She had built the company from scratch, starting with nothing but a dream and a small loan from her grandmother. Over time, she turned it into a thriving business that people trusted. But today, Maya wasn't walking into the store as its owner. She was there as a customer, someone who needed help with a purchase. As she approached the glass doors of the store, Maya paused for a moment to look at her reflection. She was dressed casually, jeans, a sweater, and sneakers. Nothing fancy, but comfortable enough for running errands. She pushed open the door and stepped inside. The familiar hum of activity greeted her immediately. People were scattered throughout the store, browsing shelves filled with the latest technology. Employees moved around, assisting customers or restocking items. It felt like home. Maya headed straight for the counter at the back of the store. She knew exactly what she wanted, a high-end tablet that would be perfect for her upcoming projects. As she waited in line, she glanced around, taking in the atmosphere. Everything seemed normal, just like any other day. But little did she know this visit would turn out to be anything but ordinary. When it was finally her turn, Maya stepped up to the counter. A young man stood behind it, tapping away on his phone. He didn't look up right away, even though he must have noticed her standing there. Maya cleared her throat softly, hoping to get his attention. The man glanced up briefly, his eyes scanning her from head to toe before returning to his screen. His name tag read Greg. "Can I help you?" Greg asked without much enthusiasm. His tone was flat, almost dismissive. "Yes, hi," Maya said with a polite smile. "I'm looking for a specific tablet. Do you think you could help me find it?" Greg sighed audibly, as if her request was an inconvenience. He finally put his phone down and gave her a quick once-over again. This time, his expression shifted slightly. There was something in his gaze, something judgmental, that made Maya feel uneasy. Still, she tried to ignore it and continued speaking. "It's the new model with the extended battery life," she explained. "I've heard great things about it, and I thought it might be useful for my work." Greg raised an eyebrow. "Work, huh?" he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What kind of work do you do?" Maya hesitated for a moment. The question caught her off guard. Why did it matter? Wasn't she here to buy something? She decided to answer anyway, keeping her tone friendly. "I run a tech company," she replied. "We specialize in developing software solutions for businesses." If Greg was impressed, he didn't show it. Instead, his lips curled into a smirk. "Oh, really?" he said. "You don't exactly look like someone who runs a tech company." The comment stung, but Maya forced herself to stay calm. She wasn't going to let him ruin her day. "Well, appearances can be deceiving," she said lightly. "Anyway, about the tablet." Before she could finish her sentence, Greg interrupted her. "Listen," he said, leaning forward slightly. "I don't think we have what you're looking for. Maybe try somewhere else." Maya blinked in surprise. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I thought this store carried all the latest models." "We do," Greg replied, his tone growing colder. "But they're not cheap. And honestly, I don't think you'd be able to afford them." The words hit Maya like a punch to the gut. She felt her cheeks flush with anger, but she bit her tongue. Arguing with him wouldn't solve anything. Instead, she took a deep breath and nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "Thank you for your time." Without another word, Maya turned and walked away. She could feel Greg's eyes on her as she left the store, but she refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing how upset she was. Once outside, she stopped for a moment, letting the cool air wash over her. Her hands trembled slightly as she clenched them into fists. How dare he treat her like that? Who did he think he was? For a few minutes, Maya stood there trying to process what had just happened. She couldn't believe that someone working at her own store would behave so rudely toward her. Sure, she hadn't introduced herself as the owner, but that shouldn't have mattered. Every customer deserved to be treated with respect, regardless of how they looked or what they wore. As she replayed the conversation in her mind, Maya realized that Greg's attitude wasn't just unprofessional, it was discriminatory. He had judged her based on her appearance, assuming that because she was black and dressed casually, she couldn't possibly afford the products in the store. It was infuriating, but unfortunately, it wasn't the first time Maya had faced such prejudice. Growing up, Maya had always been aware of the challenges that came with being a black woman in a predominantly white industry. When she first started her career, she often found herself having to prove her worth twice as hard as her peers. Colleagues would overlook her ideas or dismiss her contributions simply because of her race and gender. But instead of letting those experiences bring her down, Maya used them as fuel to drive her forward. She poured all her energy into building Tech Haven, determined to create a space where everyone felt welcome and valued. From the beginning, she made it clear that her company would prioritize inclusivity and fairness. Employees were trained to treat every customer with kindness and respect, no matter who they were or where they came from. Under Maya's leadership, Tech Haven became known not only for its cutting-edge products, but also for its commitment to creating a positive shopping experience. That's why Greg's behavior hurt so much. It went against everything Maya had worked so hard to achieve. She had spent years cultivating a culture of acceptance and understanding within her company, and yet here was one of her own employees completely disregarding those values. It was unacceptable. Still standing outside the store, Maya pulled out her phone and opened her emails. She typed a quick message to Lisa Carter, her trusted assistant, asking her to review the security footage from the store earlier that day. If Greg thought he could get away with treating customers poorly, he was sorely mistaken. Maya intended to find out exactly what had happened and make sure it never happened again. After sending the email, Maya took one last look at the store before walking away. She knew this wasn't the end of the story. In fact, it was only the beginning. What Greg didn't realize was that by refusing to serve Maya, he had unknowingly set off a chain of events that would change not only his life, but the entire future of Tech Haven. As she disappeared into the crowd, Maya's mind raced with possibilities. She was angry, yes, but she was also determined. Determined to hold Greg accountable for his actions. Determined to remind her employees of the standards she expected them to uphold. And most importantly, determined to ensure that no customer ever left her store feeling disrespected or unwelcome again. Little did Greg know, the woman he had dismissed so callously was the very person who signed his paychecks. And when Maya returned to confront him, he would have no idea what was coming. Maya sat in her car, gripping the steering wheel tightly as she replayed the incident at the store over and over in her mind. The anger she had felt earlier was still simmering beneath the surface, but now it was mixed with something else. Disappointment. Disappointment not just in Greg, the employee who had treated her so poorly, but also in herself. How could she have let something like this happen under her own roof? She had built Tech Haven to be a place where everyone felt welcome, regardless of their race, gender, or background. Yet here she was, questioning whether the values she had worked so hard to instill were truly being upheld. As she drove home, Maya's thoughts drifted back to the early days of her journey. The struggles she faced, the sacrifices she made, and the moments that shaped her into the person she was today. It was a story she rarely shared with others, but one that defined every decision she made for her company. Growing up in a small town, Maya had always been fascinated by technology. Her parents weren't wealthy, but they encouraged her curiosity. When she was 10 years old, her father brought home an old computer that didn't work anymore. Instead of throwing it away, he handed it to Maya and said, "See if you can fix it." That simple challenge sparked a lifelong passion. Maya spent hours taking the machine apart, studying its components and figuring out how to put it back together. By the time she was done, the computer was running better than ever. Her love for technology only grew stronger as she got older. In high school, Maya excelled in math and science, often staying late after class to ask her teachers questions or work on extra projects. But despite her talent, she often felt like an outsider. Many of her classmates dismissed her ideas because she was black and female, assuming she couldn't possibly understand complex concepts. At first, Maya let their comments get to her, but then she realized something important. Proving them wrong would be her greatest victory. After graduating at the top of her class, Maya earned a scholarship to study engineering at a prestigious university. It was a dream come true, but it wasn't easy. Being one of the few black students in her program, she often felt isolated. Some professors underestimated her abilities, while classmates excluded her from group projects. Still, Maya refused to give up. She poured all her energy into her studies, determined to show everyone what she was capable of. During her senior year, Maya came up with an idea for a project that would change her life forever. She designed a software tool that helped small businesses manage their finances more efficiently. The concept was simple, yet innovative, and when she presented it to her professors, they were amazed. One of them even suggested she enter it into a national competition. Maya hesitated at first. She didn't think she stood a chance against bigger, more experienced teams, but eventually she decided to take the risk. To her surprise, Maya won first place. The victory gave her the confidence she needed to pursue her dreams. After graduation, she used the prize money, along with a loan from her grandmother, to open a tiny tech repair shop in her neighborhood. At first, business was slow. Most people didn't trust a young black woman to fix their devices, especially when there were larger, more established stores nearby. But Maya didn't let that discourage her. She worked tirelessly, offering affordable prices and exceptional service. Slowly but surely, word spread about the talented young woman who could solve any tech problem. Within a few years, Maya's little repair shop had grown into something much bigger. She expanded her services, added new products, and hired a team of employees to help keep up with demand. Before long, Tech Haven became one of the most respected names in the industry. What set Maya's company apart wasn't just the quality of its products, it was the way she treated her customers and employees. From day one, she made it clear that everyone was equal, no matter who they were or where they came from. But now, sitting in her car, Maya wondered if she had been naive to think she could create a perfect workplace. Was it possible that some of her employees still held biases they hadn't confronted? Had she failed to notice signs of discrimination because she wanted to believe her company was different? By the time Maya arrived home, she had made up her mind. This wasn't just about Greg. It was about ensuring that Tech Haven lived up to the standards she had set. She needed answers, and she knew exactly where to start. The next morning, Maya met with Lisa Carter, her assistant, at the office. Lisa had been with Maya since the early days of Tech Haven and was one of the few people she trusted completely. Over coffee, Maya explained what had happened at the store and asked Lisa to pull the security footage from the previous day. Together, they reviewed the recordings, paying close attention to Greg's interactions with customers. What they discovered was worse than Maya had imagined. Greg wasn't the only employee behaving poorly. Several others had shown similar attitudes, dismissing customers based on their appearance or making snide remarks behind closed doors. One clip showed an elderly man being ignored for nearly 10 minutes while staff members chatted among themselves. Another captured a teenage girl being laughed at when she asked for help finding a budget-friendly laptop. Maya felt sick to her stomach as she watched the footage. These weren't isolated incidents, they were part of a pattern. And the worst part was that none of these employees seemed to realize how harmful their actions were. They acted as though treating customers poorly was acceptable, as long as it didn't affect sales. "This has to stop," Maya said firmly, turning off the monitor. "I won't let this kind of behavior ruin everything we've built." Lisa nodded in agreement. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "We need to address this head-on," Maya replied, "starting with Greg. But it can't end there. We have to make sure every single employee understands our values, and that we won't tolerate anything less." Over the next few days, Maya worked with Lisa to develop a plan. First, they compiled a list of employees involved in discriminatory behavior, using the footage as evidence. Then they scheduled a mandatory meeting at the store where the incident had occurred. Maya decided to attend personally, wanting to send a clear message that this issue was serious. On the day of the meeting, Maya arrived early, her heart pounding with anticipation. She hadn't told anyone why she was coming, just that it was important. As employees filed into the room, murmurs of curiosity filled the air. No one expected the owner of Tech Haven to show up unannounced. When everyone was seated, Maya stood at the front of the room and introduced herself. For many of the employees, it was the first time they had seen her in person. A wave of shock rippled through the crowd as they realized who she was. Greg's face turned pale when he recognized her. He suddenly understood why she looked so familiar. "Good morning," Maya began, her voice steady and calm. "Thank you all for being here today. I know this is unexpected, but there's something I need to discuss with you. Something that's been bothering me for a while now." She paused for a moment, letting her words sink in. Then she continued. Tech Haven was built on principles of inclusivity, fairness, and respect. Those aren't just words. They're promises we make to our customers and to each other. Unfortunately, recent events have shown me that those promises aren't always being kept. Maya gestured to a screen at the front of the room, where clips from the security footage began playing. The room fell silent as employees watched themselves treating customers poorly. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others looked away in shame. When the video ended, Maya turned back to face the group. "This isn't who we are," she said, her tone firm but compassionate. "And it's not who we're going to be. Moving forward, I expect every one of you to uphold the values this company was founded on. If you can't do that, then this isn't the right place for you." Her gaze landed on Greg, who was staring at the floor, unable to meet her eyes. "Greg," she said, addressing him directly, "you may remember me from yesterday. I was the customer you refused to serve." Gasps echoed through the room as the connection clicked for everyone. Greg's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. He looked utterly humiliated. "I'm giving you and everyone else a chance to learn from this," Maya continued. "But I want to be very clear. There will be zero tolerance for discrimination moving forward. Is that understood?" The employees nodded silently, too stunned to speak. Maya took a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief and determination. This was just the first step, but it was an important one. She knew there was still a lot of work to be done, but she was ready to face it head-on. As the meeting came to an end, Maya reminded everyone of the impact their actions had, not just on customers but on the company as a whole. She encouraged them to reflect on their behavior and consider how they could contribute to creating a better, more inclusive environment. Then, with a final nod, she left the room, leaving the employees to process what had just happened. Later, that evening, Maya sat alone in her office thinking about the road ahead. Holding her employees accountable was necessary, but it wasn't enough. She needed to go deeper, to address the root causes of the problem and ensure that Tech Haven remained a place where everyone felt valued. The days following the meeting at Tech Haven were tense. Employees who had attended couldn't stop talking about it, whispering in hallways and exchanging nervous glances. Some felt guilty, others defensive, but everyone knew one thing for certain. Things were going to change. Maya had made her expectations crystal clear. Discrimination would not be tolerated. But while her message was firm, it also left many employees wondering what exactly those changes would look like. Maya didn't waste any time. She spent the next few days working closely with Lisa Carter to develop a plan that would address the root causes of the problem. It wasn't enough to simply punish bad behavior. She wanted to create an environment where such behavior wouldn't happen in the first place. That meant rethinking how employees were trained, monitored, and supported. The first step was implementing mandatory diversity training sessions. Maya reached out to a local organization that specialized in workplace inclusivity and hired them to lead workshops for all Tech Haven employees. These sessions weren't just about teaching people what not to do. They focused on fostering empathy, understanding, and respect. Through role-playing exercises, group discussions, and real-life examples, participants learned how their actions could impact others and why inclusivity mattered. At first, some employees resisted. A few grumbled about having to attend the sessions, claiming they already knew how to treat people fairly. Others tried to downplay the severity of the issue, insisting that incidents like Greg's refusal to serve Maya were rare exceptions. But as the workshops progressed, even the most skeptical began to see things differently. One exercise stood out in particular. Participants were asked to pair up and share personal stories about times when they had felt judged or excluded because of their race, gender, or background. For many, it was the first time they had truly listened to experiences different from their own. One employee, a young man named Ryan, admitted during the session that he used to make jokes about customers he thought couldn't afford the store's products. Hearing another employee describe how hurtful those kinds of comments could be made, him realize how wrong he had been. "I never thought about it like that before," Ryan said quietly after the discussion. "I guess I didn't mean to hurt anyone, but that doesn't really matter, does it? If someone feels disrespected, then I messed up." Moments like these gave Maya hope. Change wouldn't happen overnight, but every small step counted. Still, she knew that training alone wasn't enough. To truly transform the culture at Tech Haven, she needed to hold people accountable and reward those who demonstrated the values she believed in. With Lisa's help, Maya reviewed performance evaluations for all employees, paying special attention to customer feedback. Those who consistently received praise for their kindness and professionalism were publicly acknowledged and rewarded. Some were given raises, while others were offered leadership opportunities within the company. On the flip side, employees whose behavior failed to improve despite warnings faced consequences. Several, including Greg, were let go. Greg's termination was difficult for Maya. While part of her felt no sympathy for someone who had treated her so poorly, another part remembered the shame and regret she saw in his eyes during the meeting. She wondered if firing him would give him the chance to grow, or if it would push him further into denial. In the end, she decided it was the right call, not just for Tech Haven, but for Greg himself. Sometimes tough love was necessary for real change to happen. In addition to addressing individual behaviors, Maya took steps to improve the overall shopping experience at Tech Haven. She introduced new policies designed to ensure that every customer felt valued. For example, employees were now required to greet each customer within 30 seconds of entering the store. They were also encouraged to ask open-ended questions to better understand what the customer needed, rather than making assumptions based on appearances. To reinforce these changes, Maya installed additional cameras throughout the stores and implemented a system for customers to provide anonymous feedback. This allowed her to monitor interactions more closely and address issues quickly if they arose. She also created a hotline where employees could report discriminatory behavior without fear of retaliation. As word spread about the changes happening at Tech Haven, reactions varied. Some customers praised Maya for taking a stand against discrimination, while others expressed skepticism, wondering if the efforts were genuine or just for show. Maya understood the doubts. It was easy to promise change, harder to follow through, but she remained committed to proving that Tech Haven was serious about creating a welcoming environment for everyone. One afternoon, a woman named Karen visited the same store where Maya had been refused service. Karen was white and middle-aged, dressed in casual clothes similar to what Maya had worn. When she approached the counter, an employee named Sarah greeted her warmly and asked how she could help. Karen explained that she was looking for a gift for her son but wasn't sure which product to choose. Instead of rushing her or dismissing her concerns, Sarah patiently walked her through the options, answering her questions and offering thoughtful recommendations. By the time Karen left the store, she was smiling. Later that evening, she submitted a glowing review online, praising Sarah for her exceptional service. "It's rare to find someone who genuinely cares about helping you," Karen wrote. "Tech Haven has earned my loyalty." Stories like Karen's began to appear more frequently, signaling that the changes were having a positive impact. Sales increased, and customer satisfaction ratings soared. Employees who had initially resisted the new policies started to embrace them, realizing that treating people with respect wasn't just the right thing to do, it was good for business too. But Maya knew there was still work to be done. Transforming a company culture wasn't a one-time fix. It required ongoing effort and vigilance. She continued to meet regularly with Lisa to discuss progress and identify areas for improvement. Together, they brainstormed ideas for engaging employees and customers alike, such as hosting community events and partnering with local organizations to promote STEM education among underrepresented groups. One initiative Maya was especially proud of was the launch of a mentorship program. Through this program, experienced employees mentored newer hires, sharing not just technical skills but also lessons about professionalism and inclusivity. Maya hoped that by fostering strong relationships within the team, employees would feel more connected to each other and to the company's mission. Despite the challenges, Maya found herself feeling optimistic about the future. The journey hadn't been easy, but seeing the positive impact of her efforts made it worthwhile. She often thought back to the day she was refused service at her own store and how angry and disappointed she had felt. Now, though, she saw that moment as a turning point, a catalyst for growth and transformation. Late one evening, as Maya sat in her office reviewing reports, Lisa knocked on the door. "Do you have a minute?" she asked, peeking inside. "Of course," Maya replied, gesturing for her to come in. "What's up?" Lisa hesitated for a moment, then handed Maya a piece of paper. "This came in today," she said. "It's a letter from Greg." Maya raised an eyebrow, surprised. "From Greg? What does it say?" Lisa shrugged. "You should read it yourself." Curious, Maya unfolded the letter and began reading. It was short, but heartfelt. Greg apologized for his behavior, acknowledging that he had acted out of ignorance and prejudice. He thanked Maya for giving him a wake-up call and promised to learn from his mistakes. He ended by asking if she would consider writing him a recommendation letter if he decided to pursue a career in counseling, where he hoped to help others avoid the same pitfalls he had fallen into. Maya set the letter down, deep in thought. She hadn't expected this from Greg or anyone else involved in the incident. It was a reminder that people were capable of change, even when it seemed unlikely. After a moment, she looked up at Lisa. "What do you think?" she asked. "Should I write the recommendation?" Lisa smiled softly. "I think it's up to you. But if I were you, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. Everyone deserves a second chance." Maya nodded slowly. "You're probably right." She picked up the letter again and read it once more, feeling a mix of emotions. Forgiveness wasn't always easy, but sometimes it was necessary, for others and for herself. With a renewed sense of purpose, Maya tucked the letter into her desk drawer and turned back to her work. There was still much to do, but she felt confident that Tech Haven was heading in the right direction. Challenges would undoubtedly arise in the future, but Maya was ready to face them head-on. After all, building a better world, one interaction at a time, was what she had always dreamed of doing. Weeks had passed since the changes began at Tech Haven, and the ripple effects were becoming clearer by the day. Employees who had once been resistant to the new policies were starting to adapt, while others embraced the shift wholeheartedly. Customers noticed the difference too. Smiles greeted them as they walked in, questions were asked with genuine curiosity, and help was offered without judgment. The atmosphere in the stores felt lighter, warmer, and more welcoming. Maya spent much of her time visiting different locations to see how things were progressing. She wanted to ensure that the changes weren't just surface level, but deeply ingrained in the company's culture. During these visits, she often spoke with employees and customers alike, listening carefully to their feedback. It wasn't always easy hearing criticism, but Maya knew that growth came from understanding mistakes and learning from them. One afternoon, Maya stopped by the same store where Greg had refused to serve her. As she walked through the aisles, she observed interactions between staff and shoppers. One employee, a young woman named Elena, caught her eye. Elena was helping an elderly man find a phone charger. Instead of rushing him, she patiently explained each option, even going so far as to show him how to use it properly. When the man thanked her warmly, Elena smiled and said, "It's my pleasure. Let me know if you need anything else." Maya approached Elena after the customer left. "That was really great," she said. "You handled that situation perfectly." Elena looked surprised to see Maya standing there. "Oh, thank you," she replied. "I just try to treat people the way I'd want to be treated, you know?" Maya nodded. "Exactly. And that's exactly what we need here. Keep up the good work." As she continued her rounds, Maya couldn't help but feel proud of how far the company had come. But pride wasn't enough. She needed to stay vigilant. Change was fragile, and complacency could undo all the progress they'd made. Later that week, Maya received an email from Greg. He had followed up on his earlier letter, attaching a copy of his application for a volunteer position at a local youth center. The program aimed to mentor at-risk teenagers, many of whom came from marginalized communities. Greg wrote that he hoped to use his experiences, not just as someone who had discriminated, but also as someone who had been held accountable, to guide others toward better choices. Maya read the email several times before responding, writing, "A recommendation letter for Greg wasn't a decision she took lightly. On one hand, she believed in second chances and the power of redemption. On the other hand, she worried about sending the wrong message to her own employees. Would recommending Greg undermine the seriousness of his actions, or would it demonstrate that accountability and forgiveness could coexist?" After discussing it with Lisa, Maya decided to write the letter, but with conditions. In it, she acknowledged Greg's past behavior and emphasized the importance of taking responsibility for one's actions. She also highlighted his willingness to learn and grow, noting that true change required effort and commitment. Finally, she encouraged the youth center to monitor his progress closely, ensuring that he remained dedicated to making amends. Sending the letter gave Maya a sense of closure. While she doubted she'd ever fully trust Greg again, she respected his attempt to turn his life around. For her, it reinforced the idea that everyone deserved an opportunity to do better, even those who had hurt her personally. As the weeks turned into months, Maya focused on expanding Tech Haven's reach beyond its physical stores. She launched an online platform designed to connect customers with tech experts who could provide personalized advice and support. The service was free and accessible to anyone, regardless of whether they had purchased products from Tech Haven. Maya hoped this initiative would further reinforce the company's commitment to inclusivity and accessibility. The response was overwhelming. People loved the convenience of being able to ask questions from the comfort of their homes, and many praised the quality of the advice they received. Some customers shared stories about how the platform had helped them solve problems they'd struggled with for years. Others expressed gratitude for the kindness and patience shown by the experts. One story stood out in particular. A single mother named Maria reached out for help setting up a home office so she could start freelancing. With no prior experience using computers, Maria felt overwhelmed and unsure where to begin. Through the platform, she connected with James, a Tech Haven employee who guided her step by step. Not only did James teach her how to set up her equipment, but he also showed her how to create invoices, manage payments, and market her services online. By the end of their sessions, Maria felt confident enough to take on her first client. Maria later wrote a heartfelt review thanking James and Tech Haven for changing her life. "I didn't think I'd ever be able to do something like this," she wrote. "But because of the support I received, I now have hope for the future. Thank you for believing in people like me." Stories like Maria's reminded Maya why she had started Tech Haven in the first place. Technology wasn't just about gadgets and devices. It was about empowering people to improve their lives. Every interaction, no matter how small, had the potential to make a difference. While the company thrived, Maya made sure to prioritize her employees' well-being. She introduced flexible work hours, mental health resources, and opportunities for professional development. Employees were encouraged to share ideas for improving the workplace, and many of their suggestions were implemented. For example, one team proposed hosting monthly community days, where staff volunteered at local charities or schools. Another suggested creating a peer recognition program to celebrate acts of kindness and teamwork. These initiatives strengthened the bond between employees and fostered a sense of belonging. Many workers said they felt more valued and supported than ever before. Some even credited Tech Haven with reigniting their passion for their jobs. One evening, during a community day event, Maya found herself chatting with Ryan, the employee, who had admitted to making insensitive jokes in the past. He had recently been promoted to a leadership role, thanks to his improved attitude and dedication to the company's values. "I never thought I'd say this," Ryan said with a laugh, "but I actually enjoy coming to work now. It feels meaningful, you know?" Maya smiled. "That means a lot to hear. This company is only as strong as the people in it. If you're happy, our customers will feel it too." Ryan nodded. "Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You've changed a lot of lives, including mine." Moments like these filled Maya with gratitude. Running a business wasn't just about profits and numbers. It was about creating spaces where people could thrive. Seeing her employees grow and succeed brought her immense joy. Despite the successes, challenges still arose. Occasionally, Maya would receive complaints from customers about rude or dismissive behavior. Each time she addressed the issue immediately, reminding everyone of the company's standards and expectations. She also used these incidents as teaching moments, encouraging employees to reflect on their actions and consider how they could improve. Through it all, Maya remained steadfast in her mission. She knew that building a truly inclusive and respectful workplace was a lifelong journey, not a destination. There would always be setbacks and obstacles, but she was determined to keep moving forward. One evening, as she sat at her desk reviewing reports, Maya allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, and there would undoubtedly be more challenges to face. But she felt confident that Tech Haven was stronger than ever, not just as a company, but as a community. Her thoughts drifted back to the day Greg had refused to serve her. At the time, she had been angry and hurt, wondering if she had failed in some way. Now, though, she saw that moment as a turning point, a chance to rebuild and redefine what Tech Haven stood for. It hadn't been easy, but every step of the journey had been worth it. With a deep breath, Maya closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair. Tomorrow was another day, full of possibilities and opportunities to make a difference, and she was ready. Months had passed since Maya implemented the sweeping changes at Tech Haven, and the transformation was undeniable. The company wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Sales were higher than ever, customer satisfaction ratings soared, and employees seemed genuinely happy to be part of something meaningful. But for Maya, success wasn't measured in numbers or profits. It was about impact, the lives she touched, the barriers she broke down, and the legacy she was building. Maya's days were busy, but she made it a point to stay connected with her team. She visited stores regularly, attended employee meetings, and even joined in on community service events organized by the company. Her presence wasn't just symbolic, it was a reminder that leadership meant being present and accessible. Employees appreciated seeing their boss roll up her sleeves alongside them, whether it was helping clean up after a charity event or troubleshooting a technical issue during a product launch. One chilly Saturday morning, Maya arrived at a local park where Tech Haven volunteers were setting up booths for a free tech fair. The event was aimed at teaching people basic computer skills, offering advice on affordable devices, and providing resources for those interested in pursuing careers in technology. It was one of many initiatives Maya had championed to give back to the community and make tech more accessible to underserved populations. As she walked around the park, Maya greeted volunteers and chatted with attendees. One woman, a grandmother named Clara, approached her booth holding a tablet. "Excuse me," Clara said hesitantly. "Can you help me figure out how to video call my grandkids? I've been trying for weeks, but I can't seem to get it right." "Of course," Maya replied warmly. She guided Clara through the steps, patiently explaining each function until Clara successfully connected with her grandchildren. Tears welled up in Clara's eyes as she saw their smiling faces appear on the screen. "Thank you so much," she said, hugging Maya tightly. You have no idea what this means to me. Moments like these reminded Maya why she loved what she did. Technology had the power to connect people, solve problems, and create opportunities, and ensuring everyone had access to it was a cause worth fighting for. The success of the tech fair inspired Maya to expand Tech Haven's outreach efforts. She partnered with local schools, libraries, and nonprofits to host similar events across the city. Each one brought new challenges and rewards, but the most fulfilling aspect was seeing how eager people were to learn. Many attendees expressed gratitude not just for the knowledge they gained, but also for the encouragement they received. One program that stood out was a coding workshop for teenage girls. Maya had long been passionate about closing the gender gap in tech, and this initiative was close to her heart. Over the course of 6 weeks, participants learned the basics of programming, built simple apps, and worked together on group projects. At the end of the program, they presented their creations to a panel of judges, including Maya herself. One girl, named Jasmine, caught Maya's attention. Her project was a mobile app designed to help students manage their homework assignments and track deadlines. When asked about her inspiration, Jasmine explained that she often struggled to keep up with her workload because her family couldn't afford expensive planners or organizational tools. I wanted to create something that could help kids like me stay on top of things without spending money, she said shyly. Maya was deeply moved. After the presentations, she pulled Jasmine aside. Your app is incredible, she told her. Have you thought about turning it into a real product? Jasmine looked surprised. Really? You think so? I know so, Maya replied with a smile. If you're interested, I'd love to mentor you and help you take it to the next level. Jasmine's face lit up with excitement. Yes, thank you so much. Watching Jasmine's confidence grow reaffirmed Maya's belief in the importance of representation and opportunity. Too often, talented individuals were overlooked because they didn't fit traditional molds. By creating spaces where diverse voices could be heard and nurtured, Maya hoped to inspire a new generation of innovators. While Maya focused on empowering others, she also took time to reflect on her own journey. Running a business was demanding, and there were days when the weight of responsibility felt overwhelming. But she reminded herself of the lessons she had learned along the way: perseverance, resilience, and the value of staying true to her values. One evening, as she sat alone in her office, Maya flipped through an old photo album. The pictures inside captured moments from her early days in tech, her first repair shop, her makeshift desk cluttered with tools and wires, and the small team she had hired to help her scale the business. Looking at those images filled her with pride, not just for how far she had come, but for the obstacles she had overcome. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a text from Lisa. Greg reached out again. He's doing well at the youth center and wanted to thank you personally. Maya set the album aside and picked up her phone. She hadn't heard from Greg in months, and while she still harbored some lingering resentment, she was curious to know how he was doing. She called him back later that night. Hi, Maya, Greg said when he answered. His voice sounded hesitant, almost nervous. I hope it's okay that I reached out. It's fine, Maya replied. How are you? I'm good, Greg admitted. Better than I expected, honestly. Working with the kids has been eye-opening. They remind me of myself at that age, angry, confused, and quick to judge others. Being able to guide them, to show them another way has been incredibly rewarding. Maya listened quietly, letting him speak. She could hear the sincerity in his voice, the genuine desire to make amends. I'm glad to hear that, she said finally. It takes courage to admit your mistakes and work toward becoming a better person. Thank you, Greg said softly, for everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm trying. Every day. Maya smiled faintly. That's all anyone can ask for, to try. After they hung up, Maya felt a sense of peace wash over her. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or excusing bad behavior. It was about acknowledging growth and choosing to move forward. Greg's progress gave her hope, not just for him, but for humanity as a whole. As the year drew to a close, Maya prepared for Tech Haven's annual holiday party. It was a tradition she cherished, a chance to celebrate the hard work and achievements of her employees. This year, however, she decided to do something different. Instead of hosting a lavish banquet, she organized a volunteer day at a nearby shelter. Employees spent the afternoon serving meals, handing out blankets, and spending time with residents. The experience was humbling for everyone involved. For many employees, it was their first time volunteering, and they were struck by the stories they heard and the gratitude they witnessed. Even small acts of kindness, like sharing a meal or listening to someone's story, had a profound impact. At the end of the day, Maya gathered her team for a brief reflection. "Today reminded me of why we do what we do," she said. Tech Haven isn't just about selling products, it's about making a difference. Whether it's through our work, our community efforts, or simply the way we treat each other, every action matters. Her words resonated deeply with her employees. Many expressed how grateful they were to be part of a company that prioritized purpose over profit. Others shared their own plans to continue volunteering or give back in other ways. As the sun set, on the shelter, Maya stood outside watching her team pack up. Despite the cold weather, she felt warm inside. The past year had been challenging, but it had also been transformative for her employees, and for the countless lives touched by Tech Haven's mission. She thought back to the day Greg had refused to serve her, a moment that had sparked so much change. At the time, she had felt hurt and betrayed. Now, though, she saw it as a catalyst, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there was always an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to build something better. With a deep breath, Maya climbed into her car and headed home. Tomorrow was another day full of possibilities and potential, and she was ready to embrace it. Maya Johnson stood behind the podium, her heart beating steadily as she surveyed the crowd. Hundreds of people filled the conference hall, their eyes fixed on her with anticipation. She had been invited to speak at a major tech conference, and while public speaking wasn't something she particularly enjoyed, she knew this was an opportunity to share her story, and perhaps inspire others to create change in their own lives. The theme of the conference was overcoming adversity in business, and Maya's journey fit perfectly. From humble beginnings to building one of the most respected companies in the industry, hers was a tale of resilience, determination, and courage. But more than that, it was a story about how adversity could become a catalyst for growth, not just for individuals, but for entire communities. "Thank you all for having me today," Maya began, her voice calm yet confident. "When I first started my career in tech, I never imagined I'd be standing here speaking to all of you. Back then, I was just a young woman with a dream, and a lot of challenges to overcome." She paused, letting her words sink in. The room was silent, every person hanging on to what she would say next. "I grew up in a small town where resources were limited, and opportunities were even scarcer. My parents worked hard to provide for our family, but money was tight. Still, they encouraged me to pursue my passions, especially my love for technology. When I was 10 years old, my dad handed me a broken computer and said, 'See if you can, fix it.' That simple challenge changed my life forever." Maya smiled softly, remembering those early days of taking apart machines and putting them back together again. "I spent hours learning how things worked, teaching myself through trial and error. It wasn't always easy. There were plenty of times when I failed. But each failure taught me something new. By the time I graduated high school, I knew I wanted to work in tech." Her tone shifted slightly as she continued. "But getting there wasn't easy. As a black woman in a field dominated by men, I faced discrimination almost daily. Professors doubted my abilities. Classmates excluded me from group projects. Even after I landed my first job, colleagues dismissed my ideas because of who I was. At times, it felt like no matter how hard I worked, I would never truly belong." A murmur of understanding rippled through the audience. Many nodded, recognizing similar struggles in their own lives. But instead of letting those experiences defeat me, I used them as fuel to drive me forward. Maya said firmly. I reminded myself that proving people wrong wasn't just about me. It was about paving the way for others who might face the same obstacles. So I kept pushing, kept innovating, and eventually, I built Tech Haven. She went on to explain how the company started, a tiny repair shop in her neighborhood, and how it grew into a thriving business known for its commitment to inclusivity and fairness. She shared stories of customers whose lives had been transformed by the products and services Tech Haven provided, as well as employees who had found purpose and fulfillment working for the company. Then, Maya took a deep breath. This was the part of her speech she had been dreading, the part where she revealed the painful incident that had forced her to confront the biases still lurking within her own organization. One day, not too long ago, I walked into one of my stores as a customer, she admitted. I didn't introduce myself as the owner, I just wanted to buy something. But the employee behind the counter refused to serve me. He judged me based on my appearance, assuming I couldn't afford the products in the store. What he didn't realize was that I owned the place. Gasps echoed through the hall as the audience absorbed the weight of her words. Maya let the silence linger for a moment before continuing. At first I was angry, not just because of how I was treated, but because it went against everything I had worked so hard to build. Tech Haven was supposed to be a place where everyone felt welcome, regardless of who they were or where they came from. But this incident showed me that we still had a long way to go. She described the steps she took to address the problem: implementing diversity training, revising company policies, and holding employees accountable for discriminatory behavior. She also talked about the importance of forgiveness, sharing Greg's story and his efforts to make amends. It wasn't easy, Maya admitted. Change never is. But I learned that true progress requires honesty, vulnerability, and a willingness to grow, not just as individuals, but as a community. We can't erase the past, but we can choose how we respond to it, and that choice shapes the future. As she wrapped up her speech, Maya emphasized the power of perseverance and empathy. Adversity will always be a part of life, she said, but it doesn't define us. What defines us is how we rise above it. Whether you're running a business, leading a team, or simply trying to make a difference in your corner of the world, remember this: every action matters. Every interaction has the potential to inspire, uplift, or transform someone's life, including your own. The room erupted into applause as Maya stepped away from the podium. People rose to their feet, cheering and clapping enthusiastically. For many, her words had struck a chord. A reminder that even in the face of injustice, hope and resilience could prevail. After the conference, Maya mingled with attendees during the networking session. Dozens of people approached her to express their gratitude, sharing their own stories of struggle and triumph. Some asked for advice on starting businesses or overcoming bias in the workplace. Others simply thanked her for being brave enough to share her experiences. One woman, a young entrepreneur named Tanya, waited patiently until the crowd thinned out before approaching Maya. "Hi," she said nervously. "I just wanted to say thank you. Your speech meant so much to me." Maya smiled warmly. "You're welcome. What did it mean to you?" Tanya hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I'm trying to start my own company, but it feels like everyone doubts me because I'm black and female. Hearing you talk about facing those same challenges and succeeding anyway gave me hope. If you can do it, maybe I can too." Maya reached out and placed a hand on Tanya's shoulder. "You absolutely can. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Building a business is hard, but staying true to yourself is harder. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it." Tanya nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "Thank you. I'll remember that." In the weeks following the conference, Maya reflected on the impact her speech had made. Social media buzzed with praise for her message, and several attendees reached out to share how her words had inspired them to take action in their own lives. One man wrote to say he had confronted a coworker about discriminatory behavior after hearing Maya's story. Another woman credited Maya with giving her the courage to apply for a leadership position she had previously thought was out of reach. But perhaps the most meaningful feedback came from Greg. In a heartfelt email, He thanked Maya for mentioning him during her speech. "I know I don't deserve your kindness," he wrote, "but hearing you acknowledge my efforts gave me hope. I'm determined to keep growing and making a positive impact. Thank you for believing in me." Reading Greg's words brought tears to Maya's eyes. Forgiveness wasn't about erasing the past, it was about creating space for redemption and healing. Seeing Greg turn his life around reinforced her belief in the power of second chances. As Tech Haven continued to thrive, Maya remained committed to her mission of inclusivity and empowerment. She expanded the company's outreach programs, launched partnerships with schools to promote STEM education, and advocated for greater diversity in the tech industry. Her efforts earned her numerous accolades, including awards for leadership and social impact. But for Maya, the greatest reward was knowing that she had created a legacy, a company that stood for something bigger than itself. Tech Haven wasn't just a retailer. It was a beacon of hope, a testament to the idea that businesses could and should make the world a better place. One evening, as she sat in her office reflecting on the journey so far, Lisa knocked on the door. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. "Of course," Maya replied, gesturing for her to come in. Lisa held up a framed photo. "This arrived in the mail today. Thought you might want to see it." Maya took the frame and smiled. It was a picture of Jasmine, the teenage girl from the coding workshop, holding her finished app at a local tech competition. Beneath the photo was a note. "Thank you for believing in me. Because of you, I now believe in myself." Maya set the frame on her desk, feeling a swell of pride. Moments like these reminded her why she did what she did. Change wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't quick. But every small step forward mattered, and together those steps could lead to something extraordinary. With a deep breath, Maya leaned back in her chair and looked out the window. The sky was dark, dotted with stars. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new ways to make a difference. And she was ready. Because for Maya Johnson, the journey was never truly over. It was a lifelong commitment to building bridges, breaking barriers, and leaving the world a little brighter than she found it.